Hi, I'm Mahmoud. Welcome back to my channel. This is the first video in the proper new studio. And today we're talking about the new Whitechapel album, Hymns in Dissonance. So by now you may have heard the new album from Whitechapel. Whitechapel is a death metal band, deathcore band from Tennessee. And I may have been wrong about this album. For those of you who don't know, the band had been working with producer, sound engineer, mixing engineer Mark Lewis up until now. They started working together on their self-titled album Whitechapel up until their last record, Kin. Their work always stood out to me for its very clear separation of the instruments, the super tight and defined low end, and what I consider to be Mark Lewis's signature crisp high end, especially the cymbals and guitars typically. Also, while those albums tended to be mastered loudly at their peaks, they also still kept a lot of dynamic range intact, especially on the albums where Phil Bozeman's singing was featured, as opposed to their heavier albums. Not that those albums weren't heavy in general, but this album is a squashed, ugly, angry mess of distortion, a land where transients go to die. And this I say with all of the love and admiration for this creative decision, because that is what it is. It was a creative decision. This saturated work of the new production team, which consists of guitarist Zach Householder on production duties, as well as Wizard Blood and Jeff Dunn on mixing, who, by the way, also did the last Knocked Loose album, which is phenomenal. I was so used to Whitechapel sounding precise and clean, at least in context of modern death metal, that it made me question if I even liked what I was hearing. I told my friend, man, this is so saturated, I feel like it is losing so much impact, which he was surprised to hear. He disagreed, but he also told me to tell you guys to like, comment, and subscribe and stick around. I'll be doing more music talks, and I would love it if you stuck around for more. Thanks so much in advance. After that first single, I didn't even listen to the other releases that came out before the full album was released. This makes it sound like I didn't enjoy the single, which couldn't be further from the truth. It has been a long time since I have been left speechless at how absurdly heavy a piece of music is. I remember texting a few friends that day, and I remember how everyone basically had the same reaction. Jaw on the floor, flabbergasted that heavy music could still deliver something so heavy it would even shock longtime fans of the genre. And then I got it. This whole record is ugly. It is a mess, despite the exact and tight performances. It is angry and vicious, and having the production reflect that was the right choice, even if it left some of us a bit dumbfounded in the beginning. Having the soundscape deviate from the usually very crisp and clear modern metal production approach was the only choice, as far as I'm concerned, given the songwriting present on this 43-minute assault. Here's maybe the best example of that. The song, The Abysmal Gospel, starts off with this almost 90s HM2 guitar tone that sounds choppy, like they're starving the voltage of it. You couldn't distort the guitar more without ending up with basically white noise. It goes into this very old school death metal, almost Cannibal Corpse-ish riff, and then completely amps it up with blast beat accompanied guitar noisy squeals that remind you of Slayer's Rain and Blood. This intro drips of horror atmosphere, and this needs to be produced and mixed the way that it was, because a clean mix would have detracted from what this vision is. Bedlam stands out to me as one of the slower songs that combines the ferocity of this album with their impeccable sense for slower death metal grooves which was featured on their previous 3 to 4 albums. That halftime feel suits them just as well, in my opinion, and I am happy that a slower song like that made it onto the record in between all of the faster, more technical death metal songs. Mammoth God's intro is incredible. That blackened death metal riff melody, which also reappears in the chorus, is such a vibe. The bridge is borderline catchy too. It has this halftime feel that makes you want to move immediately, with fast double bass keeping the fierce feeling of this song going. The highlight of the song to me is the melodic section right after this. The solo and the melodies following are a bright spot on the album, given that there's so few actually melodic sections at all. Nothing Is Coming for Any of Us is pure deathcore prowess. Both the band and Phil are firing on all cylinders in a demonstration of power of how this genre is supposed to sound. The message is fairly clear. If you're not this pissed off, then do not bother. And I think that sums the album up as a whole. Some might complain about the length, which I completely disagree with. This is just the right amount of minutes that it makes me want to take a break after a playthrough, but not so long that it makes me want to stay away from it. If there's one critique I potentially have, is it can be a bit samey for an album, but also I think that's just a creative decision that they made, because clearly on their previous bunch of albums, that was not a concern at all. So if you're a fan of modern metal and its extremer versions, I can highly recommend this album. If these extremes are not for you, I would still tell you to check it out, if not only for the absurd heaviness on this album. Either way, I would love to hear your thoughts on this album. Please let me know what album I should be reviewing next. In the meantime, I will see you down below in the comments section, and thanks so much for watching. I've been Mahmoud. See you next time.